I did a couple times, but so far last.
All right, I'm going to continue the meeting, and I guess we're not live streaming it.
No, it, yeah.
For now, I guess. We're not the only ones that have issues. I sit at county's council, and same thing happens, you know, so. Oh, okay. Councilor Bowman, moved by Councilor Bowman, seconded by Councilor Henry. Be resolved that the agenda for September 11th, 2023 be adopted. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moved by Councilor Henry, seconded by Councilor Bowman. Be resolved that council approve the minutes of the August 14th, 2023 council meeting as distributed to all members. Is there any corrections to be made in the minutes for members? It's none. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Any item F, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Does any member have anything to bring forward? So, first one on the board is donation presentation from TC Energy, Gretchen Gordon. And, oh, okay, so, yeah, Chief, take it away.
All right, thank you, through your worship. So Fire Prevention Week is October 8th to 14th this year. And the official theme is cooking safety starts with you. Pay attention to fire prevention. Each year we purchase Fire Prevention Week kits that are full of educational materials for the public. TC Energy has graciously donated Augusta Fire a full Fire Prevention Week kit, which allows us to reach even more of our residents with fire safety tips during Fire Prevention Week. I would like to introduce two people. First being our Augusta Fire Rescue's Fire Prevention Officer, Philip Lawson. This is the gentleman that will be leading our team during the Fire Prevention Week. And I would like to introduce and thank Gretchen Gordon, the Senior Lead Liaison with TC Energy. Do you mind coming up? Well, the picture, if you have anything you'd like to say, Gretchen? I know you didn't know yet, same.
I'm bringing these for the fire department as well.
Okay.
We're happy to support our local communities with the kits. So thank you very much for inviting me.
We do a small presentation for you as well. This is just some of the stuff that's in the kit. I thought we'd show just a small.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice of you. Thank you.
It's taking a video. One moment. Technology is not our friend today.
That's okay. Happens to me all the time.
That's okay. Okay, it's me doing it, Mark. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's lovely. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have our staff from Fulton Land Use Strategy presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. So first of all, thank you, Mayor and members of council, for having us this evening. We are really excited to present to you today the land use strategy for Augusta lands west of Prescott and the projects moving forward, including the phasing, the implementation, and how we see the lands evolving into the future. So the purpose of the presentation is to present a quick summary of the background research, workshops, and stakeholder engagement that has been completed to date, provide an overview of the project evolution from from a secondary plan study to implementation that will be done through phase 1 official plan amendment. My name is Nathan Patrician. I'm a planner with FO10 Planning and Design. There's a broader team back in our Ottawa, Toronto, and Kingston offices who have been working on preparing the schedules, preparing the documents that you have before you. The project commenced in August 2022. FO10 was retained by the township to prepare a secondary plan study for the lands that are bound by County Road 2, Merwin Road to the east, the Highway 401 to the north, and Town of Prescott, to the east, and Merwin is to the west. We came as a consultant team in November of 2022, did a community visit and a series of visioning and community workshops. That the first was quite well attended. We received quite good feedback from the community and from the stakeholders that we engaged at that time. In the winter, into the spring, and through to June, we worked with the township, with Melissa, formerly Steve, and Shannon on preparing the land use strategy for the lands. And preparing the final concept report, as well as the implementation strategy and phasing plan for it really evolved so that we could work within the existing framework that is there now under both official plans, and see how it can be implemented, recognizing that Augusta will be undertaking a new official plan process shortly. The phase 1 strategy and really the overall broader land use strategy really responds to the objectives, policies, and land use designations of both official plans. It establishes local development policies that are unique to the area and promotes the desired type and form of physical development while ensuring an integrated approach is taken with the surrounding context, specifically the town of Prescott. A vision and guiding principles were developed in consultation with stakeholders in 2020 and 2021, while the principles provide more detailed direction and enables the area to provide for this mix of built forms while also protecting and enhancing existing features, ensuring servicing, infrastructure, and mobility networks and open spaces in a well-integrated way. The servicing strategy for the area is intended to not develop on private servicing, but rather an extension of servicing, so transportation networks, that includes road networks, cycling networks, water, wastewater, all from the town of Prescott through a joint servicing agreement, which is being developed at this time. Existing properties will be provided an opportunity to connect to these services, but that is not a requirement. First and foremost, the new commercial land use is located close to the highway to complement the existing uses not only in Prescott, but to also provide visibility from Highway 401, while new residential areas are planned as 5-minute walkable neighborhoods. This structure really provides that general framework and guidance for the other structures. So first, the open space structure. It identifies opportunities for new open spaces and connections throughout the land use area. The structure builds on existing natural features that are currently in the land use strategy area. The policy seeks possible and provide for new centrally located green spaces such as community parks, while smaller spaces like parkettes and privately owned green spaces can be located throughout. New open spaces may also contribute to the overall stormwater management strategy for the area. Next, the mobility structure identifies opportunities to integrate the existing mobility network while providing for new complete streets that accommodate a variety of modes of transportation, including private vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians that are safe for all users. There are policies and guidelines that respond to the existing framework in both Augusta and Prescott and establish a hierarchy of arterial, collector, and local roads throughout the land use strategy area. It also enables opportunities for cycling, multi-use trails, and pedestrian connections, which are well integrated into the planned context. And finally, the land use structure envisions the area developing with both new commercial and residential uses. Commercial lands may include light industrial, retail, office, and other general commercial that is supportive of the existing and planned community and located near the highway as an extension of those existing areas in Prescott. New residential areas are provided south of this, also responding to the existing uses in Prescott, and planned for a mix and range of housing types from lower densities for the majority of the area, which includes single, semi-detached homes, up to residential core areas that are intended to accommodate a medium to higher density built form, such as townhouses or possibly low-rise apartments. Land use policies and guidelines are flexible to accommodate institutional uses, while built form guidelines provide specific direction on how the physical development will be guided throughout the area. Finally, the implementation of the land use strategy is expected over 2 phases. The phasing plan in the presentation demonstrates the phase 1 lands for both the commercial and residential areas. These are general sizes in consultation with municipal staff. There's a 1 hectare residential portion and a 4.85 commercial portion, most importantly, based on the findings of the joint land needs assessment. Phase 1 is to be implemented by a near-term official plan amendment, amending the existing Augusta official plan to allow for the development of those areas, while phase 2 will require a redesignation of the land use strategy area to an urban settlement for residents to provide any questions that they have and for the consultant team to work with township staff to address them. And then in the near term, the official plan amendment for the phase 1 lands will come before council. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, maybe something that you could clarify.
In attendance at the public open house, an official plan amendment was drafted to allow for the phase 1 development to occur in the land use strategy area, and that would occur after a commenting period. There are all the materials available online, including the land use strategy concept report, the land needs assessment that was done a couple of years ago by the town of Prescott, as well as the phasing plan and overall structures. After the commenting period, which will be a few weeks up to a month, the official plan amendment will go to council, so likely in late September or October, and that will allow phase 1 to occur. It's also my understanding that a new official plan will be undertaken in the near term, so the township will need to engage a team to help them prepare a new official plan or prepare that themselves, and that process typically takes at least a year, and the policies and guidelines that are in the land use strategy will then be
Next we have is PSD citywide. There's a draft assessment management plan presentation. And
He's online.
there he is.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I prepared a presentation. Just let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes. It's on the screen.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. I'm Jordan Gonda. I'm a program manager in the Asset Management Advisory Division of PSD. I'm here today to present on the 2024 Asset Management Plan. Before I get into the plan, I'd like just to give a bit of background. Part of the motivation for this project was compliance with Ontario Regulation 58817. This regulation has a set of state's requirements for asset management planning for all municipalities in Ontario. The goal of this regulation is for reporting of infrastructure assets across the municipalities. So I'm just showing here a summary of that regulation. The first requirements go as far back as 2019, which is a requirement for an asset management policy. And as you can see through time in 2022 and 2024, there's requirements for an asset management plan. The project that we've done with the township is to satisfy the 2024 requirements. So that is both satisfying the previous 2022 core assets as well as for all assets. So what this means is we need to develop a plan that looks at all infrastructure assets for the township. We're documenting the current levels of service. We're doing an inventory analysis. So that's a breakdown of costing, condition, quantities of your infrastructure assets, your life cycle plan to maintain them, the cost of the life cycle plan, population employment forecasts, and some discussion of growth impacts on the plan. I also want to recognize that in 2025, 2 years from now, there's another stage. What this requires is to examine a proposed levels of service. So when you get into 2025, we levels. The plan that I'm presenting on today is just about what you're providing currently, what your strategies are, but recognizing in the future, you might start looking at different targets. So more broadly, asset management is really all about service management. If we can better manage our assets, it means we can better manage our services. So, for example, roads and bridges are in place so that goods and people can move. If our roads are in poor condition, it might mean that we can't accommodate certain kinds of traffic. If our buildings, parks, and community centers are in a good condition, that would have an impact on quality of life of everyone. So it's important to recognize that if we can manage our assets well, we can deliver better for all 5,000 methodology, which is an interesting. So cost to replace, renew, and maintain what you own. It looks at the performance. So what are the assets providing? And then the risk. So which of these assets are more critical? And if we don't achieve the performance we want, what kind of risks are we exposed to? So we look at all three of these things in the plan. And today I'm just going to provide a short summary of what's in that plan. So to start off with, we can look at the costs. This is showing the portfolio of all infrastructure assets owned by the township. These costs here, as you can see, they're derived from a combination of unit costing that was used in recent contracts, inflation of historical values, and that's how we get to the $155 million. The majority of that is the road network, so the paved roads make up a good portion of that. If we were to break up all these costs by a household, each household would pay about $51,000. So these assets really add up to quite a lot, and it's important that we recognize their cost and find a way to manage it in a cost-effective way. Secondly, we can look at the breakdown of the condition. So part of performance really comes down to condition. If assets are in poor condition, they don't perform as well. This is again showing a summary of all the asset categories. The majority of our assessments are just based on age. So what that means is that we look at when they were put into service. We have a useful life that we define based on the TCA policy and some industry practice. And then we estimate how much life is left. So only 7% of it's based on condition ratings, and those are the bridges and culverts. Everything else is based on age. So you can see a lot of the roads and machinery, equipment, and buildings are in that very poor condition, and that's just because a lot of those assessments are age. If we were to go out and assess, we'd likely see a more optimistic story. That said, 31% of assets are in fair or better condition. So there is a good portion that we've assessed that are in that very poor to poor. From this information, we can start developing life cycle strategies. So what that means is, what are the costs and activities we do to these assets over their life? Kind of look at two different strategies. For most of the assets, we assume a replacement at end of life. However, roads are unique because there are a lot of activities done throughout the life. So in this plan, we've incorporated all of those, and that's what you're seeing on the right here. So for an asphalt road, for example, we built models that would take into account the crack sealing, patching, the overlays, and you can see on the bottom right that these events, they all have a cost and some kind of impact. So all the projections in our plan for the roads use these models. Similarly, for surface treated roads, we build a similar kind of model in this way. Bridges and culverts, we assume the recommendations from the bridge inspection report. So those drive the replacement profile for the bridges and culverts. We forecasted capital requirements over the long term, so over the next 80 years. Again, this is based on models for roads and bridges and renewal for everything else. As you can see, the majority of costs come from the road network, roughly 2/3 to 3/4 each year. What we can do with these costs is we can take an average in any given year. So some years there might be more requirements, some years less, but overall we expect about $5.4 million per year to keep maintaining and renewing our asset infrastructure. Currently we have a backlog of $6.9 million, and again, this backlog is based on useful because we can start looking at are we being sustainable? So this is comparing that average annual requirement of 5.4 million against the funding that you have available from sustainable sources. So we're not considering one-time grants. We're only considering sustainable sources like your taxes, your OSIF, your gas tax. If we look at these sources, there is quite a big deficit. You're only about 33% funded. Most municipalities in Ontario want to close the funding gap. If we want to get that 5.4 million per year, what that means is that we might increase year over year. And again, this is just to close that gap. And we're also recognizing that with good project prioritization, you might start putting your funding towards the more critical projects. Some key recommendations. So this plan was compliant for 2024. The township still does not have an asset management policy. That's also required by the regulation. So we suggest that be developed. In terms of the plan itself, we want to recognize that there's a lot of effort that went into it. And that means that kind of as a first iteration, there are a few gaps. The most important one, in our opinion, is the condition assessment. A lot of this is based on age. If we have assessed condition for other assets, it'll likely change the story of the kind of backlog we might have or the funding needed. We also need to review and update the inventory. So we notice that for machinery and equipment, it may work from the TCA registry and staff input, but this is still a work in progress, and the next iteration will have a more complete inventory. Buildings right now are represented as single assets. It's important that we eventually componentize them. In all of our projections, we're assuming that an entire building is replaced at once rather than individual components over time. Costs to have more accurate financial need representation. And we also need to update the estimated useful lives, as some assets appear to be in the backlog when they may not be there. Again, I went over the condition, and finally review and adjust the parameters in the risk models. Going forward, prepare for the 2025 requirements, so likely some public engagement to have a sense of what kind of levels of service targets to set, as well as develop a financial strategy for that future plan. This is a living document. A lot of work has went into this as the first go. I suggest that year over year you keep updating it. Nearly done here, just some key considerations.